Hey, welcome to the process. My name is Dr. John Bush. This is my ADP versus end of season fantasy points analysis, discussion, discoveries for tight ends, 2015 to 2022. All this material will be available on scienceoffantasyfootball.com. Listen to the podcast, D. Mike and I do. All sorts of goodness awaits you here with these lessons and whatnot. So please look at the quarterback and running back lessons and the previous lessons as well. Lots of stuff out there, more than you can handle in 5 minutes. So let me tell you, this is going to be kind of the shorter one. I think tight ends are fairly straightforward. Of course, when I say that, I'm sure it'll be tricky this year. But let's start. And first thing I like to do is take a look at the preseason ADP kind of groupings, and in this case, one first tight end to the 17th, and then what was the so-called EOS, end of season fantasy point average. So I take those 17, figure out their fantasy points they scored per year, and then looked at and used a box and whisker to see the population here. And to me, the population data, the box and whiskers, gets us an idea about variation, and it gives us an idea about the highs and lows and any kind of year-to-year changes. You can get a lot by just a snapshot of this. Okay, so let's go through what this is saying. So this is 2015's population of tight ends, 1 to 17, and then their fantasy points. And this is 2022. So things to look for is the length of the box. That's about 66% of the population. So that's the core of the population. The extreme high is the upper whisker. The extreme low is the lower whisker. It's why it's called the box and whiskers here. And it's hard to tell, but like 149, if I pull that up, you can see that's kind of the average for that year. That was, let's see. Come on, John. Where are you? There it is. 143, 128. So it dropped to 2017, 2018. The average was 136. Last year, the year before, 137. 156. 155. And let's see here. I can't find the X. Come on, John. Where is the X? I know it's there somewhere. 144. Okay. So that's kind of the average, is kind of the range. And then there's the median line as well. So what I see is the last 5 years, you had a lot more variation in the tight end population. Look at the length of the boxes, big boxes. And then notice the small box. Look at the COVID year. People say, oh, COVID didn't do anything. Folks, COVID did things. Okay, you can see it in the population. Okay, if people are not looking at this landscape level, they're missing it. But COVID definitely was hard on majority of tight ends. Anyway, when you see these circles up here, those are beyond the population. Those are the extremes. So these are the extreme highs here. Kelsey, that kind of thing. Mark Andrews might have been there, that kind of thing. Yeah, so way above the population. There's Kelsey here, 313. 316. Wow. So anyway, the last 3 years, the concentration of the tight ends have been really compact. So in some ways, you could interpret that to mean there's not a lot of difference in the majority of the tight ends. And I believe that's what that data is telling us. And I believe the draft strategy that I think people have adopted was you either go Kelsey, maybe Andrews, maybe the third. If not, there's opportunities late. So it's kind of the barbell shaped draft strategy for tight ends. That's what I'm using based on this information. Whereas in the previous years, when you have a wide variation, then that kind of strategy is not as optimal as the smaller boxes here at all. So right now, given the last 3 years, one predicts that 2023 will be kind of compact as well. That's a prediction, right? We all have to step out there. Okay, but that's what it looks to me. So I will be most likely using the barbell approach in best ball and redraft. I think D-Mike and I are pretty much agree on that process. You go elite, or in best ball, I try to grab 2 really strong candidates late. People like Freiermuth, Schultz, who else might I be grabbing? Certainly best ball late. Zach Ertz is almost free. Chiggy in Tennessee is on the list. So you grab 2 or 3 kind of close together, maybe around 9, 10. So you got a quarterback. You missed on an elite tight end. I would, in best ball, I've been kind of doing back-to-back tight ends, 9th, 10th, 11th round, somewhere in there. Kind of make sure I got that streaming effect here to try to compensate. I didn't say it's superior to the elite. No. But you hope by missing the elite, then you've gotten strong in other positions, and that can outweigh the difference. That's pretty much what you're hoping in that case. Okay, let's take a look overall. Tight ends 1 to 17. Let me scoot this down. This is fantasy points per ADP over the last, 8 years? So the first ADP over the last 8 years has had, 6 years of super success. 1 year is a failure, 2016. 2018 was How you interpret the colorization is green is in the top 30%, red is in the bottom 30, and no color is in the middle. So you kind of got the top, the mid, the bottom. And one is bringing home the bacon. Look at the second one. Look at last year, especially 188. Look at from Kelsey down. Wow. Look at the year before, 264, 133, 125. Look, a super failure. Boy, COVID was a tough year. You didn't get any success till the 5th draw. 2021 didn't do too bad. if you got stuck with the second one, too bad. But you had a shot at grabbing some nice ones early. So this is this early concept, and this is then you're having to pick some of these later here, and you're hoping a stream comes about. So that's kind of the idea for the draft strategy here. But, it's hard to say you shouldn't pick and choose. I would definitely look at the top 3 or 4 and do your research 2023, folks. We're talking what? Kelsey, Andrews, who is it? Pitts is in there, Kittle. Those are kind of, am I missing somebody else? I don't know. But anyway, those are definitely in that, potential. I mean, Kelsey's kind of by himself, but then Andrews, Kittle, Pitts, you got to kind of think about, do you want to target any of those? I could see where you could do that. I usually, if I can't get Kelsey or Andrews, and Andrews has some variation issues for me, so really it's Kelsey or I'm doing the streaming almost. That's kind of my default plan there. Okay, so let's look here. Of course, notice if you wait to the, say, the 10th, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 successes out of what? 7 times 8, 56. So what is that? 14% success. Wow, that's tough. So, and even look at the 7th. I mean, you're still, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And then we're talking, what, 9 times 8, 72. So 11 out of 72, whatever that percent is. It's not much better. That's why would I grab in here when potentially I could grab late? And, maybe stream a couple of these. So that's kind of the idea. And part of that is you don't know what you're getting when you get past. I guess Kelsey's such a sure thing. I mean, we're assuming no injuries, that you're thinking, well, why am I using my draft capital here when I might be able to put 2 of these together and potentially get close to some of these so-called sub-elite tight ends, or at least that's the idea. What I did here is took the best tight end fantasy point average, that was Kelsey in 2022, and compared every score as a percentage of that, and then stain it. So it's just another way, if you think on a scale to 0 to 100, maybe it's another way for you to visualize the data here. So number 1 tight end, you're getting at least 80% super value in 5 years, right? So you can see kind of late 45, 43, 47. I mean, you're not really going down much at all. Even late, you're kind of stuck in this little area here, say close to 45%. And the year before, you were close to 50, so it's a little higher that year. Here was 47, 50. So the last 3 years, notice the compact nature of the ball and chain, yes, box and whisker here. And of course, the years before, wow, you were getting big surprise. So all I can say was the last couple years, we've actually had only 3 failures from the 8th to the 17th. So that's actually pretty good. You're actually, in other words, the later tight end is becoming more safer than, look at 19. Wow, you were getting socked in the mouth here in some of that. So there is some positive here on what's going on. So I don't know if people look at the bright side. So again, missing the elite, and if you wait in here and grab two, you're probably about, half of Kelsey. But, let's just say if Kelsey wasn't there, you would be talking 67%. And now, close to 50, you're not but 17% off. That's not too bad. Waiting late. So there is, I think, some goodness to that elite or late tight end barbell strategy. Looked at the patterns. Red is 2021. Let's see, what are we doing here? The green is 2022. And the blue is 2020, the COVID year. So look at, by the third tight end, you're down. 2021, you did have a little bit of a peak, 5, and then drop down to 9, and then re-peak kind of later. And notice the COVID year, you peaked at 8 and 7, and then dropped again. I mean, obviously you're peaking at the top, but you kind of have a depression. Notice a depression. You even drop a little bit. So there's this kind of elite. We do see a drop, and then kind of a peak. Notice the green here. Last year, the peak was a little bit broader down to the 9th, but it stayed pretty steady in here. So you still, the last 3 years, getting kind of, like I said, 40 to 50%. You're landing in that zone. Whereas the previous years, you were really getting socked in the mouth there late. So again, this later tight end may not be a bad strategy. I just do like 2 tight ends back to back kind of concept there. This is another way to look at it. I have the year and then the fantasy point, the ADP 1 to 17. So you can kind of see it from left to right. Just kind of follow the journey. And here's 2022. So in the first 5, you had, of course, Kelsey. You had 2 fairly good success, 2 failures. Year before, you had pretty much no failures, 4 successes. So you're getting in the top 4 or 5, you're getting 2, 3 pretty good successes. But there are some tricks, right? It's always trick or treat. And some years you're getting some tricks. So if you're going to draft early, I'd make sure what you're grabbing. If you can't grab Kelsey, and you're trying a 2, 3, 4 kind of tight end, you better be damn sure what you're getting, because I think you might do better out here in this kind of 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 kind of era here as far as the tricks you might receive. So again, the barbell is just looked at here. Let's see, what am I doing here? Okay, so what I've done here is ADP populations, and we're looking at segments here of, and I don't know if this is the top, how did I do this? Is this the top? Oh, I guess I'm looking at all the populations, the 1s, the 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then the 17. Okay, so I'm doing a box and whisker, and you could see that, notice the variation. Long box, notice late, short box. So there's this idea that if you're this late, it's not much difference. At least that's the concept. And even here at 6, 7, 8, 10, 9 has have variation, but those 4 of those 5 in that have been pretty much the same thing. So that's the concept. And if you're wise, you might cherry pick in here in best ball and do okay. You may not. So I guess this is the barbell, or you're digging up here late. I think that's pretty straightforward. And I think the overall trend is this trend here. If we put it all together this way, it looks like about the 12th round, 12th draft round, you don't need to be messing with tight ends at that. Certainly your first point. You should go deeper into that. But again, notice Kelsey, then it looks like 2, 3, 4. You have an opportunity, kind of a tier. Then you might have a tier in here. And maybe even that's a giant sub-tier right here from the 5th to the 12th. So that's a big area. So why spend a 5th round when 11th or 12th might get you nearly the same thing? So that's my overall quick view of tight ends. Only had one lesson here. I think it's fairly straightforward how to approach 2023. You just got to figure out the nuances of some of the picks, but I think the barbell strategy is supported by this concept. Okay, we're having fun.